So Republicans remain obsessed with Joe Biden's prostate. It's the one kind of legitimate talking point that they've gotten. Every other Republican talking point policy is absolutely absurd. They're all insane. No redemption there. But this one, there's actually some substance to it. And because there is some substance to it, they're going to be talking about it for the next month. Probably in the next 6 months, let's be honest. They're accusing the White House of covering up Joe Biden's health. And apparently in this video, someone says it's worse than Watergate. I disagree with that.
So, Benny Johnson, your thoughts on this? It seems to me that this book is a dynamite book. It has an extraordinary number of revelations. I've heard out Jake and Alex explaining why. I don't think they're trying to hide the fact that the media dropped the ball, and they were part of that ball dropping. But are you as convinced or not?
Dropped the ball. Like, it's very polite of you, Piers. You're so very polite. You're exactly right. British press would never have stood for this. And, clearly it's important to hold our leaders into account. You see the French president getting completely bitch slapped today.
If British press had the same information, I don't know. Like, show me the concrete evidence that Biden was unfit to serve. And then the people to blame are not the media, not the White House. It's his vice president and his cabinet. Because they can invoke the 25th Amendment. So if Biden was truly unable to get up, sign bills, comprehend what was happening in the world, and with politics, then that's an issue. Not illegal by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely a breach of public trust. But I think the media did well with what they had. Fox News was like taking every Biden gaffe and saying he has to have these like wild sicknesses. He's totally unfit to serve. Obviously, they're extrapolating on his worst moments, and that is not representative of what's happening. But I think CNN covered it pretty well. They covered the fact that he was definitely getting worse, but so bad that he should have been removed. I don't know. I need some evidence on that. This is all speculation. It could be worse than I think. But my interpretation of this is just that, his White House was trying to make him look good. Let's just be honest. If Trump's White House noticed him forgetting things every once in a while, are they gonna come out and be completely honest with that and say, oh, the president's memory is deteriorating? No, they wouldn't, because their job is to maintain a presidential image of Donald Trump. I think that's their job. It's the cabinet and the vice president's job to make the judgment if the president is fit to serve, and then Congress afterwards, of course, would vote on that. But it's just not as big of a deal as they think.
Live TV, I couldn't believe that. It's the job of the press to ask tough questions and to do so without favoritism. Here would be my question for Jake, and I'm so sad I didn't get a chance to be on live with Jake here, Piers. Maybe we can set that up next time. Why didn't you ask these questions before Joe Biden was already in the dumpster heap of history? Where were your balls, Jake Tapper? Where did they go exactly for the last 4 years? During this time, Jake Tapper had a very successful CNN show.
There's a difference between balls. By balls, he's saying, I want you to make up some conspiracy that you don't have the data to support. That's essentially what he's saying. That's what the right wing has been doing for the past 4 years. Making up some narrative that Joe Biden is for sure unfit to serve. I need evidence. These people don't need evidence. That's the difference between them and myself. I don't know. I truly don't know how bad Biden was. And I don't blame his White House for trying to keep a good image of him, because I think that's what's expected. It's not their job to determine if he's unfit to serve. It's their job to make a good image for the Biden administration. I think that's totally fine.
Jake Tapper was on live every single night on CNN, which we are told is the most powerful name in news, while Joe Biden was falling ass backwards down the stairs of Air Force One, while Joe Biden was falling flat on his face on a stage during...
All right. What does muscular strength and balance have to do with the presidency? I don't know. Give me some mental diseases. Give me some proof that his IQ went down. Something solid.
Commencement address to the American Military Naval Academy. While Joe Biden couldn't find his way out of an exit, couldn't find his own words, was making up words in the English language. While Joe Biden was suicidally surrendering in Afghanistan and getting American servicemen.
That is true. He definitely got more forgetful. It's just how we had to have some way of measuring how that affected his presidency. It very much could have affected it a lot. Like, we don't know the full extent of his memory issues.
Was killed, something we should remember this week. Where were you?
Did he just say Afghanistan? Like, Biden was totally fine when they withdrew from Afghanistan, and the Afghanistan withdrawal was negotiated all by Trump in Doha. He basically said, don't fire at us and we're gonna leave after my presidential term ends. He made sort of empty deals with them to try to make them promise that Al-Qaeda wouldn't operate in the region and that they would talk with the Afghan government, but all these things were useless because there's no enforcement mechanism. So basically, it just ended up being a full-scale surrender, and Biden followed through with it, as he should have. We'd already withdrawn most of our troops. There's no point in putting a bunch of troops back in Afghanistan to do the same useless thing we've been doing for 15 years, trying to prop up this Afghan government that was always going to be taken over by the Taliban, that was always incompetent. You have to acknowledge at some point that there's a power vacuum, and it has to be filled, and you can't artificially fill it. And history just shows that. It's that simple. You have to let the strongest force stabilize the state, no matter if you disagree with them or you agree with them. That's just how it works.
Can you please explain why you didn't lead your show every single night with the topic of Joe Biden's cognitive decline and potential elder abuse? And oh, by the way, Joe Biden has a terminal illness. This is something that nobody wishes on anyone.
Great, so we learned about the terminal illness a week ago, and now he's expecting Jake Tapper to know about it 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Like, what the heck? Like, you can't even judge his cognitive decline that long ago. Like, come on.
Nobody is celebrating this at all. However, it's the biggest political bombshell story in modern American history that the president has had prostate cancer, terminal prostate cancer, Mets to the bone. It's awful. Nobody wishes that on anyone, but it happened, and not a single journalist at CNN was able to uncover that story. Nobody even asked a question. My final request of Jake...
Because they didn't test it. People over the age of 70 are not recommended to get tested for prostate cancer. That's just protocol. If they did test him and they covered it up, that could have some public trust implications. It's just a horrible argument. Like, it's such a nothing argument to say you should have known it earlier, because I've been a wacko saying stuff without evidence for 4 years, and I happened to be right. Or at least he happened to appear to be right. I think in 2021, 2022, Biden was totally fine. In 23, 24, he started going downhill a little bit. A lot bit, maybe. And definitely don't blame people in 2022 for not covering this. Or even in 2023, 2024, because we had no concrete information. It's that simple.
That would be this. Where is all of your reporting? You had access to the White House. Why didn't you have the chief of staff on your show? Why didn't you ask this when you had Joe Biden on? Why didn't you ask the White House Correspondents Association why they're not asking questions of Joe Biden's aptitude and mental fitness? They did nothing, Piers. Nothing. So Jake Tapper is part of the cover.
His White House did nothing because they didn't want to make him look bad. Some people have a problem with that, some people don't. The White House that's not their job. Their job is not to tell the public how bad the president is mentally. That is the judgment of Congress, the Vice President, and the Cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment. The White House is supposed to keep a presidential image. Like it or not, that's how it works.
Period. I'm glad that he's making money after the fact. Good for you. You were able to throw Joe Biden in the trash bin when it was convenient. Now you're making piles of cash for doing the exact same thing that we've all been doing for 4 years.
Well, my one question for you, Ben, it was a great rant, by the way. My one question to you before I move to the others is, if it had been Donald Trump in the same position, would you have been be honest now, would you have been leading the charge in the way you've just described?
Yes. The answer is absolutely yes. Because oh, absolutely. Oh, yes.
When has Benny Johnson ever been critical of Donald Trump? Like, at least Ben Shapiro has a little bit of that inside of him. Benny Johnson? Really? The guy who argued Trump could do anything he wanted because of executive vesting? Like, come on. He's not going to say anything about Trump.
First off, Piers, you're close friends with Donald Trump. Do you believe that Donald Trump has problems with his energy levels? Answer that question.
No, I'm not suggesting for a moment. No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm simply saying that I'm simply saying if it was
as a matter of morality. As a matter of morality, if President Trump was falling, if President Trump was falling on his face, totally. If President Trump was falling on his face and couldn't stand and couldn't speak and was slurring his words and was calling a lid at 1 p.m., that's why I asked you about Trump's energy. You know, I'm turning 39 tomorrow. Donald Trump has probably 4 or 5x the amount of energy that I have. He's twice my age. I don't know how he does it. But if this was happening to President Trump as a patriot, as a moral person, you know, you have to, so step back and remove politics from it, Piers. As a moral person, do you think someone should be treated and abused the way that Joe Biden's been abused?
No, I don't. I'm actually staggered. And I'll come to the others. I mean, Adam Mockler.
Yeah, I think Joe Biden is the most culpable in this situation. I think she should have been outspoken about Biden's health. Again, not up to Joe Biden to invoke the 25th Amendment. But yeah, if you're looking at just what the public knows about the president, definitely Joe Biden is the person you want to complain about. I would agree with that.
The person I find that I least understand her behavior throughout all this is his wife, Jill Biden, who I interviewed at CNN, like personally very much, but she knows what he's been through as a human being. You know, he's lost 2 children and his first wife to tragic circumstances. He's somebody who's clearly heading towards 80, showing a lot of signs of cognitive disrepair and so on and so on. Surely the humane thing to do for any spouse in that position would have been to gently lead him off into the sunset and to persuade him that he could not continue. Not the complete opposite.
Yeah, listen, I'm not here to defend every single misstep or fault of the Democratic Party or the Biden admin. There are a lot of real conversations that we should be having about the incentive structures that allowed this to happen with people like Jill Biden and Hunter Biden and his close advisors. We could talk about the risk averseness of the Democratic Party and all of the flaws, but I don't know if this is the conversation we're about to have. I think when you have Lindy Lee on a panel with Benny Johnson and Jillian Michaels, it's going to be more of like a masturbatory partisan fest. And I really liked your question aimed at Benny. I think that was a good one. And you weren't trying to say that Trump has cognitive decline. You were asking if he would stay ideologically consistent when the admin is lying.
Right.
I guess the question to Benny is, do you think the 2020 election was stolen, or did Trump lie about that? Like, would you lead the charge and say that he lied about that?
That's a good question, but he underestimates Benny Johnson's stupidity. I mean, Benny Johnson is a full January 6er. Full would raid the Capitol.